Hi, this is Victor Gaumov with Confluent, and welcome back to Spring Kafka for Confluent Cloud course. And in this module, we're going to look how you can use Kafka streams together in the Spring Boot and the Spring Kafka framework, and what needs to be done, how this is configured, and what kind of things you need to know. As always, there will be practice afterwards, so you can follow along and see how this will work in Confluent Cloud. So let's get to it. So here's a couple of things that you need to know how Kafka Streams integration works with Spring Kafka. In order to kick in auto configuration in your Spring Boot application, you just need to enable annotation, enable Kafka Streams. So if you have a Kafka Streams jars in a class path, so this automatic configuration will be able to pick them up and enable this configuration. Otherwise, you can always enable this explicitly. With the Spring Kafka support, Kafka Streams lifecycle will be fully managed by Spring, and in this case, you don't need to manually create an instance of Kafka Streams object and start it and stop it and make sure that when the application starts, you're doing certain things, and after that, you will be able to stop it. So you don't need to do this. The lifecycle will be fully managed. Even though you still can get access to instance of Kafka Streams application, and in this in the walkthrough in an exercise section, I will show you where it can be useful. Spring provides a JSON-based, Jackson-based JSON serializer and deserializer. Plus, it also provides a survey for Kafka Streams. In the many use cases where you don't need to rely on things like a schema registry, for example, you're writing some standalone application, you don't need to collaborate between different members of your team or like different services, you don't need to publish the schema. The JSON serialization would work out of the box with those predefined serializers and deserializers. If you are in the world where you need to monitor and see what is going on with your application, which you should do in production, Kafka Streams exposes some of the metrics through JMX, and the Spring Kafka provides a wrapper around those metrics and exposes through Micrometer framework. So those things will be available for consumption by different frameworks and dashboard tools. And also, Spring provides some of the out-of-the-box implementation of error handling mechanisms. So Kafka Streams has APIs that allows you to enable or specify some error handler for a different type of situation. And Spring Boot provides different strategies that you can apply in your application. So let's take a look for this code snippet. We're going to look on the more details in the exercise section, but here you will see a typical configuration for your Kafka Streams application. One of the things that you might notice here is that the configuration have explicit annotations about enable Kafka Streams. So this is where Spring Boot will understand that, okay, so I need to instantiate these Kafka Streams, and also I will be using, or I will be instantiating this class called Streams Builder. We're going to talk about this in the next slide. In this bin that defines the configuration, you can provide a customized configuration for your Kafka Streams application. You can provide application ID, Bootstrap server, connection, details to Kafka Broker, or you can define this configuration in application.properties, and this Kafka Streams configuration bin would be created by default and will be available for instantiating the instances of Kafka Streams application. What I like about using Kafka Streams with Spring Boot is that essentially you can very quickly start focusing on your topology, on your Kafka Streams and K-streams and your K-tables, where you don't need to worry much about the lifecycle. Spring will take care of it. And in this case, only one method that will building this topology will require a Streams Builder as an input parameter, which Spring will inject. You can create this explicitly, or Spring can create this for you with some default configurations. So once you have this Streams Builder in place, so this method. So you will be able to get access to all APIs that available from Kafka Streams, and in this case, it just becomes like your regular Kafka Streams application. Forget about Spring, forget about anything. So it will just work like you're playing Java. Here, Spring provides a really thin wrapper on top of these APIs, so you just can focus on the good things. All right. So in the next section, you will be able to use some of the knowledge that I just described and implement some of the word processing application using Kafka Streams in Spring Boot. Also, you will be able to see how this application would look in the Confluent Cloud, what kind of topics would be created there, and so far and so on. So let's get to it. It's going to be nice.